The Bills lost yesterday in what could best be described as excruciating fashion to the Cincinnati Bengals. Considering it was a 27-10 drubbing, it's totally fair. Unlike most of their 50-year history, they actually had a good chance this year. Vegas had them as odds-on favorites, and it made sense. They had the star pass rusher, the star QB, and the star receiver. And yet, that was not enough. So what happened? For one, the Bills didn't have it easy. I mean, the Von Miller injury was bad, and the Damar Hamlin almost tragedy was way worse. And then the Josh Allen elbow stuff, that was underrated. That's a lot to deal with for any team, really. But regardless, even with all those issues, they still somehow found themselves in a pretty good position. They were at home against the Bengals, who had just suffered a litany of offensive line injuries. Everything was setting up perfectly for the Bills. IRL, the Bills got slapped up for 4 quarters. It was so bad that it's kind of hard to really pinpoint exactly who was at fault. It's not really obvious. Was it the defense? Was it the offense? Was it the coaches, if you want to get more specific? A coordinator? The weather? I mean, the weather didn't seem to bother the Bengals that much. The weather did affect the Bills' offense and defense. For example, the Bills' defense gave up 27 points while the offense gave up 10. Neither exactly had a great outing. But the defense might have been worse, especially if you look at time of possession. It was thanks to Leslie Frazier's game plan, which is basically what it is every week. It's cover 4 quarters, which really relies on cutting off passing lanes to be effective, which was a bit problematic in the snow. The Bills usually play soft coverage, but they also usually fly to the ball really fast. But that wasn't the case on Sunday. Burrow peppered the defense with completion after completion. It truly was a great game plan, and one that completely neutralized their biggest weakness coming into the game, their offensive line. It wasn't just the coverage that was the problem. The Bills also failed to disguise anything. Burrow is known as an elite processor, and in order to succeed, you kind of have to make things exotic, because otherwise, if it's pretty vanilla, he'll crush you all game long. You only have to look a week back, really, to the Ravens to see how effective that game plan really is against Burrow. Thanks to the Bills' defense just not meeting the moment, the offense was playing catch-up all game long. Offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey faced some criticism for not really establishing the run, but it's hardly fair considering how do you establish the run when you're constantly down, and they actually were down 14-0 in the first quarter. That's no way to live as an offense. That said, they aren't without blame. The offense was not great. But you have to consider the hole that the defense put them in. Despite that, for whatever reason, Fire Dorsey was trending on Twitter. Fire Frazier would have made more sense. The defensive inertia shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, really. Like Ben Solak from The Ringer points out, they just run their stuff. Meaning, regardless of what's going on, they have a defense and they stick to it. It sounds a little bush league, but it does work sometimes. This year's Eagles are a good example. They have very much a set it and forget it approach, and the Bills have been successful with it. If you look at the last 2 years, they were 4th in DVOA this year and 1st last year on defense. But clearly Burrow and the Bengals could care less what their DVO ranking was for the year. Neither should you. On a game-to-game basis, whatever you did over the course of an entire season really doesn't matter. It's all about adjusting. And if you can't adjust, what's the point of even having a human calling plays? Why not just dive into the terrifying world of AI? I'm kidding, obviously, but seriously, how can the Bills really continue on this path defensively? What happens next year if they face the Bengals again? I mean, they probably will be short-staffed again, because that's what happens in the NFL. Are the Bills going to just keep doing the same thing, hoping for different results? And that's why the Bills should move on from Leslie Frazier. And yes, I'm not forgetting that Sean McDermott is really the defensive mind behind it, and Frazier is probably installing a game plan that's very much based on what McDermott wants. But they need to move on with a new vision, and it'd be hard to do that with the same guy in place. Just clean house, bring in some new people who can maybe bring some new insights and move the defense forward. That's it for now. I know I was a little soft on the offense in this one, but I just really wanted to focus on the Leslie Frazier side of things. But I will get into more detail as to what the Bills need to do on offense to get to a Super Bowl finally and actually win it. So yeah, please like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks again.